So I got home tonight and ended up sorting through some Young Turk stuff. Just when I sat down, it's just what happened yesterday or today, and they post a lot of just trash, right? Just like stuff that you never want to even look at, right? But this one caught my eye. Taylor Swift worshipped by neo-Nazis. Well, that's ridiculous enough to get a click out of me. I'm running ad block, so your plan failed. And I'm actually more reacting to the comments. So there's a parody site, and I suppose that what's happening here is that they got their news from some mainstream news site that just didn't get it, and they're just repeating the narrative that they got from the mainstream site. They probably should have Googled it. They probably should have said, "This sounds too ridiculous to be real," and actually verify that it actually is too ridiculous to be real. It's a parody, right? And it's clear as day it's a parody. If you take the 5 minutes it takes to Google it, right? But instead they go through all of these. I mean, they got trolled, they got tricked, right? It's clear. And the comment sections are full, or the comment section is full of people, making fun of them for getting trolled. Which, you got to, if you're gonna fall for a troll, you got to take the ridicule that comes with it, right? It's and you're not living it down either. It's that sort of thing. The internet. Frat boy logic forever. Anyways, so what you see, everybody's pointing out that they got trolled and they're making fun of them. Nobody's really trying to understand what the point of it is, right? Because if you go to this site, it's not just an empty troll. It's a fairly elaborate satire. It's a parody on white supremacy, and they're not doing it just to upset people. It's coming from a pretty clearly left-wing bias, or a left-wing perspective, and it's making a lot of social commentary. So when you suggest that Taylor Swift is like the perfect representation of Aryan supremacy, that might come off as kind of ridiculous when you first think about it. I don't think anybody is really suggesting that Taylor Swift has negative viewpoints towards minorities. Minorities standing in North America, maybe majorities elsewhere in the world, but nobody's really suggesting that she has negative perceptions of people with different colored skin as her, or that speak different languages, right? But there's two parts of being a Nazi, right? And they're kind of weakly connected. The two parts are this, okay? One, you have to believe that there are inferior peoples. And number two, you have to believe that there are superior peoples. Now, by definition, they work. They counteract each other if you're using a binary logic system. But as we saw with the Trump the other day, there are other types of logic systems, ternary logic systems, for example, where statements are neither true nor false, and then the Morgan's laws break down, and the negation of the negation is not necessarily the thing itself. And these things aren't just trivialities. These are systems of logic that have been created because people have realized that binary logic has a lot of flaws, and that maybe we need to think into other logic systems if we want to really understand the world properly. And if you're curious, every mathematician on the planet agrees with that. Okay, this is not an obscure position. You know, ternary logic is not a conspiracy theory or a a mad scientist idea or something. No, it's very very mainstream, and used everywhere when it's needed, which is not all the time. But this is a good example of where ternary logic is a good idea. Because it is true that by definition, if you think somebody is inferior, then you're creating a hierarchy. If there's an inferiority, there's a superiority, right? But it is possible to not actively believe in inferiority while still at least implicitly suggesting superiority. And I think that that's really what they're getting across here. Again, nobody's arguing that Taylor Swift, thinks Jews are dirty or something like that. Although the words are put there, but it's a joke, right? And we can argue if it's a joke, if you think it's funny or not. But like I say, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to the point here first. But I think that there's a little bit of a stronger argument that there are very strong implications in the way she presents herself, that she sees something superior in this abstraction of the Aryan master race. So let's keep that in mind, okay? This is my comment. Okay. So a lot of people are pointing out that they got trolled. Now you can have debates about whether this is funny or not, but let's get what the actual point is here first. Nobody's doing that. And you kind of can't really have this discussion until you do. So what this side is doing here is actually criticizing Taylor Swift for upholding broken stereotypes of antiquated femininity that seem better left in the Third Reich. Okay? And that do romanticize the Aryan woman as the superior idea, right? The German goddess, right? She seems to put a lot of stock in that, right? And you can look into it a little bit deeper, which is what they're actually doing here, or you can put it aside. But that's the point, okay? Now, is it fair to pick on Taylor Swift specifically? I think that right now it is. If it was 5 years ago, maybe not. If it was 5 years ago, it would have been somebody else. 5 years from now, it'll be someone else. But I mean, there's a long line of sort of pop idols. Right now, it happens to be Taylor Swift, right? So yeah, it is fair for that reason, because she's the ubiquitous pop goddess, right? Is this her? Is this all her doing? No. And I think that's a part of the criticism here, right? It's the media that does this, right? She's conforming to a media standard, right? She didn't create that. She's doing what she thinks she should do to get ahead, to better herself, to get more ratings or more media time or whatever else, more endorsements or whatever it is, by upholding this, concept of the Aryan perfection, right? Now, is this coming from nowhere? Is this something that actually existed in Nazi Germany? The answer is yes. The perfect standard of feminine beauty was explored in ways that are actually um, rather well, we're talking about the Nazis. I think everything the Nazis did is disturbing. Um, but the Nazis were um, they were conservatives in a strange way, right? Um, they weren't afraid um, to do things like manipulate pornography. Um, I'm gonna give you a fiction book here as a reference. The fiction book is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. And the reason I'm giving you a fiction book here rather than a historical text is because the way that he describes it is my understanding is that the nature of the way the state approached sexuality in Nazi Germany is kind of still a taboo kind of idea in scholarship, right? Um, and if you're going to go through this, um, I think that at this point, still in 2016, you're mostly going to need primary sources. I mean, it's there. Um, there's plenty of commentary on it, but um, to actually put it together and actually explore it in more of a comprehensive way, it's just nobody wants to do that because you're looking at a state that would do things like use mass marketing to implant these Aryan concepts or these contrived ideas of Aryanism, with the blue hairs and the blonde eyes and the German body shape, to try to condition men into seeing that as ideal. And it was done through use of marketing, use of pornography, and it got kind of gross in a lot of different ways. So the Pynchon book, through using fictional tropes, very very thinly disguised fictional tropes, is able to explore this really in the only way that people can explore it. Because if you're going to explore this, you need to start to talk about things like pedophilia as well, right? And using the fictional narrative allows people to kind of drop some of their barriers that they want to put up, right? And when you pretend that this is fiction, you can handle it without gagging a little bit easier, right? I'm stumbling over my words, but I think I've got what I'm trying to say across here. So, like, it's not out of nowhere, right? And it is documented, and in fact, the comparisons are long-standing. The way that American media puts certain ideals, or well, let's just phrase it this way: is it some kind of coincidence that the American concepts of beauty seem to conform fairly well to those that were present in Nazi Germany? It's not a coincidence. It doesn't come directly from, it's not like it went from Germany to, it wasn't imported with Project Paperclip. It's more of a common heritage type thing. Coming from these really dour ideas of of Protestantism. You had Lutheranism there, and Calvinism here, but it just kind of comes from the same root, right? And it's understood, and that forms a part of the popular critique of white supremacism in the United States, right? This idea that when people of color open up a magazine or something, nobody looks like them. Everybody looks like the ideal that is presented, and that, well, I gotta watch what I'm going to say here. I think that what I was going to say is less accurate than what I'm going to say now, which is that the ideal of beauty that Taylor Swift is striving towards, right, rather than representing, although both things are true, right? So that's what the site is doing. It's criticizing Taylor Swift for upholding broken stereotypes of antiquated femininity that seem better left in the Third Reich. So are they feminazis? Of course, nobody likes that word. I don't like that word either. It's maybe closer to what they're articulating. See, here's the hard part. It is actually true. And I tried to explain that in more developed language over the last 16 minutes here. 17. Here we are in 2016, and like her or not, we're probably going to see a female president by this time next year. Meanwhile, Taylor's living in some kind of Mad Men reality, where women seek physical objectification as their ultimate purpose in life. And there's a hole wide enough for criticism there to drive Hillary's first deployment through. I kind of want to write this essay. If I did write this essay, it would be a lot more ordered than this rant, but I don't. I'm really just trying to get across what they're trying to say, and I think you can put it together from here once I pointed it out. Okay? But now that it is pointed out, let's keep it in mind as we carry on. Okay? It's not just empty trolling, it's a social commentary, and it's actually a pretty smart one.